welcome. I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym, and this is Lauren Chiren, my good friend who we've been working with for 5 years now, Lauren, on menopause, and we have your course in the Recruiting Gym, Menopause in Your Business. But please do tell everyone a little bit more about yourself.
I am super excited to be here today, and yes, crikey, I can't believe it's that long. It feels like we have known each other for just 2 minutes, and yet we have done so much together. So I left my job in my early 40s thinking I had early onset dementia, and I was clueless, to be honest. I thought that I was never going to work again. I thought that I would be in a position where I'd have to sit in a corner rocking in a home somewhere, having someone else look after me and bring up my son. And then I found out it was just menopause. So this is what got me on this journey, and I have literally traveled all over the world talking to people, raising awareness, and that's my main goal, is to raise awareness of menopause. And today I'm super excited because back in 2012, 13, 14, when I first started talking about menopause, the government certainly weren't. And now we've got the Menopause Action Plans. So I am super excited to introduce the Menopause Action Plans today, find out a little bit more about what you want to know about, and share as much as I possibly can to help you on that journey. So thank you, Angela, for creating this opportunity and for bringing everyone together today.
Well, thank you for all the resources that you've given us. And you're right, 5 years ago, my story was the fact that I went into menopause, at 51, which I believe is the average age. 6 years ago now. I knew nothing apart from, I thought that your period stopped. I thought that was it. I had no idea that there were so many symptoms, of which I have 15, which is not a lot for a lot of women. But I reached out and found people in the know because this was just ridiculous that we had all of this knowledge of everything in the world, and yet this was something that it felt like it was kept a secret. It was, kept hush-hush, taboo. We didn't talk about it. And I was just horrified by the impact that it had on me, my friends. We were obviously going through similar experiences. Yeah. And I just thought, this is not good enough. So thank you so much. We've got the link in here. We'll put it in the LinkedIn Live as well. Menopause in Your Business has loads of resources. Over the years, whenever it was Menopause Week, we would do a lot of work on that. But this is something new. So how did the Menopause Action Plans come about?
Oh, it's a long story. So way back when I left my job and then found out it was just menopause, I started speaking to my local MP because I was completely dumbfounded that we could have time off for pregnancy. And even if you were someone who never had children and, that was not something that was in your plans, or maybe something, unfortunately, for other reasons you weren't able to, we had this thing called maternity leave. And I was like, well, we support people going through that, which not everyone will do. And yet everyone will go through menopause and we're not supporting anyone through that. That doesn't feel right to me. So I started lobbying my MP and other MPs who were working in the women's space or the equality space and didn't get very far very fast, but you got the occasional lending ear. And then gradually over the years, we found that more people were starting to talk about it. There were events at Parliament and we'd start providing evidence to Parliament, sitting in various committees. And that led to a number of things. One of them was we got menopause education on schools back in 2019, just before the pandemic. So it's taken a while to embed, but it's there. We have a prescription charge, like we have a prescription certificate that you can now pay an annual fee instead of having to pay every time you get your hormone replacement therapy. So that's come into force. And now we've got Menopause Action Plans as well. And before that, I sit on the British Standards Institute when we created the landmark standard Menstruation to Menopause, which has been downloaded in over 100 countries around the world, thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And that demonstrated an appetite for employers to understand, what is this thing called menopause? What do we do about it? How can we support our workers so we don't lose them because we invested so much money in bringing them in, right? And then the other thing now, I sit on the committee for the International Standardization Organization, which is the global version, if you like, of the BSI. And it is creating a landmark global standard. And that's taken a lot longer because we've got so many cultures and countries and languages and everything to incorporate. So that's really excited because it means that the conversation is getting much broader now too.
Yeah, and actually I was speaking to a lady in Switzerland this morning and she wasn't aware of it, as many people aren't aware of the Menopause Action Plans. I was in a room with over 100 HR managers and directors about 2 months ago. Not one of them knew this was coming
Wow.
into law. They all thought it was still a nice to have and it's okay, but no, this has changed. So I'm so glad we're putting this on. But we are actually, I mean, ridiculous as it sounds, because it's 50 years too late, but we are actually in the UK here quite ahead of the game, aren't we?
We are, and it's great from one perspective that it's in the media and we're talking about it a lot. The reality is we still need to get our doctors educated, we still need to get employers on board, and in America over 20 states have now applied for legislation or regulations to provide protection for their workers going through menopause, Rhode Island being the first one that's had it awarded. So we are moving. I'm just about to get on a plane to New York, so I'm excited to get back over there and meet some of my graduates and my students over there, because I know they're doing great work and looking forward to seeing how things transpire in the northeast of the States as well.
Amazing. Well, I am going to hand over to you. We're on LinkedIn Live. I think it was about 500 people signed up for this on there.
Oh my gosh.
I know, as well as on here. So I'm going to go and check. If you've got questions, if you've got queries, then I'll be zipping back and forwards between the two of them so that we can actually answer your queries as we go along as well. Lauren, your co-host, do you see an arrow on your slides that you can click them?
Let's find out.
If not, I'll be doing that for you.
You'll be doing that for me. This is the great thing about working with somebody that you've worked with so many times, is that it just works. However it works, it works. So
yeah,
that's
you
great.
didn't know what was going on behind the scene there to get these slides up, but we've done it. Okay.
We have indeed. Great. So let's kick off. Pop in the chat. Let me know whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Crowdcast. Just put in the chat 1, 2, 3, or 4. Are you here because you want to make changes to your own business? Are you here to learn, support your clients, or just out of general interest? Or maybe it's something else. If it's something else, maybe let me know. So pop that in the chat, because that will help me understand exactly what angle you're coming from. And if we've got a particular cohort of people, clearly you're going to get my attention, and I'm going to make sure that we give you what you need today as well. So we've got a mixture coming through. We've got 2s and 3s here to support clients. That's fantastic. General interest. And I think general interest, fantastic. Support the company you're working for, fantastic, that's great. Making changes in your own business, support clients, own business and general interest, amazing, fantastic. Expand and work already doing, fantastic, that's great. Great, amazing, thank you. I appreciate everyone that is filling that in to help me go, and welcome to my grads as well and my current students. So I appreciate you being here too. Thank you so much. 1 and 3, fantastic. So if we go on to the next slide, what I want to say is I do post on this a lot. So especially on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, use the 3 drop-down buttons, hit connect, and I would love to connect with you, because that will give you more of my posts. It will let you see as legislation's changing, as top tips are coming out, things that are working well. I've got loads of best practice. So connect with me on LinkedIn, or perhaps even listen to the podcast, because we've always got some really good stuff on there. If we go to the next slide. So connect with me. I love sharing information. Information is free. Okay. We are here today to share lots of information, and I hope that you go and implement this as well. So I want to know, do you feel prepared for your Menopause Action Plan? So there are formal structured strategy that you can use as an employer to support staff, or maybe you're going to work with your clients to help support them going forward. And we're going to be looking at practical steps, management training, reasonable adjustments. And all of these things go to not just in fostering an inclusive culture, but clearly this is also going to help just make sure that your talent know what menopause is, they know how to get help and support for themselves, but also more importantly, how to support their partner, their colleague, their other team members that are going through this stage of life as well. So right now, Menopause Action Plans, MAPs, are voluntary. As of this month, they are voluntary. They will become mandatory from April next year if you employ over 250 people. So we have got this golden window right now to be able to bring all the information together, look at what we're currently doing, and you may be doing more than you even think. So it's not a worry. It's not difficult to do. It is pretty simple, and hopefully I'm going to cover off how easy that is for you to do today, whether again it's for yourself or some of your clients you're going to support as well. So let's look at what's required for companies and how you can make sure that you're going to benefit from this going forward. So again, how do you rate yourself? Next slide. How do you rate yourself right now in readiness for menopause action plans? Are you 1, just getting started? Maybe you're 2, you started doing some bits and pieces. You might have had a lunch and learn. 3, you started thinking through what that might look like. 4, 5, or 6, you've nailed it, and you're just here to check in to see. So we've got drafted our first action plan, ready to publish. Congratulations. And we've got lots of 1s, so that's completely okay as well. That's where many, many people are at the moment. We've got 4, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. So Charlotte, Angela, Joe, Laura, Anne, Amanda, Victoria, Jenny, Sue, thank you for sharing all that with us. So moving on. If you want to have a chat with us going forward, take a picture of this next slide. So if you just go on to the next slide, and if you take a picture of the next slide, then we can have a conversation and I can talk you through if you are going to be actively working in the space of menopause plans for your organization or your client's organization. Happy to give you some top tips that are relevant for you going forward. So next slide. So why are we here? Why are we actually here? Why do we have menopause action plans? What does that look like? Well, 1 in 4 people, only 25% of people feel that they are able to talk to their manager. 10%, and actually there are statistics that show that this is much higher than that, have left a job due to their symptoms. 14% have reduced their hours. 14% have gone part-time. And 8% avoided going for a promotion just because of their experience of menopause. So if we go on to the next slide, we can see that 73% of people attributed their marriage breakdown to menopause. So it's not just affecting us in the workplace, but it's affecting us personally. And we know that with the best will in the world, what goes on at home will affect us in our workplace as well. As much as we were taught, many of my generation for sure, were taught to park our personal lives at the front door when we go into work, when that might be our office door in the house or wherever we're working in a co-working space. We know that very often that our home life does affect us. And I know that I've worked with many, many people who have come into work and they're sterling performers, but their wife at home will turn around and be struggling. And the man, the husband or the wife of the woman at home will come into work and they will just be worried sick about the person that they've left at home. So it affects everyone. It affects the person going through it. It affects the people that are supporting them, living with them and working with them as well. We know that 33% of women experience a decreased interest in sex and challenges achieving orgasm. 67% claim increased domestic abuse and arguments in the home as well. So we go on to the next slide, we can see that we know that there are inconsistent information from medical practitioners. We know that there's a lack of support at work and in our communities as well. There's lots of amazing work happening here in the UK, and there's lots of amazing work going on around the world as well. But the reality is it is still very inconsistent. We know that if 10 women go to see their doctor at 10 different doctor surgeries, they're going to get 10 different experiences. There isn't a unified experience to get help and support. If we take 10 women and they go to their employers, they're going to be having a different experience. So we need to start thinking about how do we make sure someone gets an appropriate experience for them going forward. 1.2 billion women, 1.2 billion women will be menopaused by 2030. So we're not talking small numbers. Women make up somewhere between 50 and 51% of the global population. So no matter what size your organization is, no matter how many people you employ, no matter what the gender demographics are in your organization, everybody's going to be impacted by menopause. We know that you're either going to go through it, you're going to live with, work with, or socialize with somebody going through it. And I know that because I worked with a number of banks back in 2013, 2014, 2015. And they were like, no, we're very male dominated. It's not a massive issue for us at head office particularly. And then we did some metrics to look at how many people were really impacted. And we had a minimum in the most male dominated environments of 98% of people were impacted either directly or indirectly. So we go to the next slide. Another quick question for you. Thinking about the stats that I've talked about, the breakdown in personal relationships, the impact of people at work, do any of these statistics resonate with you? Just give me a yes in the chat. If any of those statistics resonate with you, just give me a yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So we want to do something about it, right? That's why we're here. We want to learn so we can have an impact, a positive impact going forward. So let's go to the next slide and just look at what the cost of inaction is. The annual economic cost of menopause symptoms totals somewhere in the region of $5.4 billion in lost productivity. And that's not even including early retirement, missed promotions, transitions to lower paying jobs. We know that menopause related symptoms cost UK businesses roughly 2.7 billion annually. That's a number that Bupa have put together as well. And then we don't have a number for the silent turnover of experienced talent as well. So we know there is an issue. There's plenty of modelling out there. We will have statistics. I could quote statistics to you all day long, right? So many studies have been done looking at menopause in the workplace over the last few years. And the essence of this is not necessarily the $5.4 billion or the £2.7 billion. The essence is that it is a genuine economic cost and it is hurting companies. And it's something that we can do something about super simply. So we've got a massive opportunity for change. We go to the next slide. The menopause we know is a genuine boardroom issue. We know that the demand for menopause experts is rising, and the menopause actions in the UK are now live. Okay, they're now live. But why listen to me? Okay, I have not just popped up. Let's head to the next slide. I have not just popped up yesterday because menopause action plans have become a thing. I've been doing this work in earnest since 2014. As I mentioned before we started, I have contributed and sit in the committees for the British Standards Institute and now the International Standardisation Organisation for the Workplace Menopause Standards. I've provided evidence to the UK and the US government. I've delivered free training to nearly 500,000 people now. It's probably more than that because I don't count things, collaborations and things like that as well. And I've trained and certified over 1,800 menopause coaches and champions in over 36 countries. I've currently got over 400 FTSE and Fortune employers on my books that I work with and have worked with since 2014. And I'm a multi-award winning motivational speaker and media commentator. I was awarded the Freedom City of London a couple of years ago for the work I'm doing in this space. But as I said at the beginning, I left my job as a senior exec in financial services, leading global transformation projects and programs, managing multiple millions of pounds. And I thought I had early onset dementia. I didn't trust myself to speak up in meetings. I was accused of not contributing in certain meetings because I wasn't sitting there and taking copious notes. I remember holding onto the arms of the chair, watching the clock tick down in one meeting because my heart was beating out of my chest and I thought I was going to fall on the floor if I let go of the chair. My throat used to get so tight with anxiety in meetings, I'd have to sip hot water to be able to squeak out the smallest of sentences. I left my job for fear of being seen as weak and vulnerable. That was something I do not want anyone else to go through. But my background, alongside my corporate experience, I've got 40 years in qualifications in human performance through psychology, anatomy and physiology, nutrition, personal training, mental health, sports therapy, and many, many more things. So when I did discover it was just menopause, we'll go to the next slide, I started using my voice to speak out and just use every tool in my kit bag to be able to find a way to raise the awareness of menopause. So I've spoken in the media, and I also make sure that I do whatever I can to speak on stages around the world. So if we go to the next slide. So tonight I'm going to be flying out to New York. I'm going to be in various places around there looking at, what can we do? How can I support my grads, my students that are currently over there? I'm super excited to be meeting up with someone on Sunday. So I get to do work now that really lights me up. I get to literally speak all over the world. So last year I spoke in Sydney Opera House, Red Bull Racing. This year I'm speaking at Ferrari, maybe Lamborghini. We're just waiting to hear about that. I'm going to be speaking in so many incredible places just because the idea is that the more we can raise our voice and talk about what is menopause, just sharing the facts, giving people top tips like we are today, then that is super important. So next slide. I literally don't want another person to experience what I did. I don't want anyone else to lose talented individuals just through lack of support on menopause. Next slide. So why are you here? You're here because of the Menopause Action Plans. You want to know what they are, what can I do about them? So just for clarification, Menopause Action Plans are now in force. They are voluntary right now. And if you have over 250 people in your organization, then you can start looking at what that means for you. But by April 2027, they will become mandatory. They will become mandatory. Now, there's lots of good information. If you just go online and you search government and menopause action plans, you can sign up to get the latest updates that the government are producing so that you can keep yourself absolutely up to date with all of their recommendations. So next slide. What is the purpose? I think it kind of speaks for itself, right? We looked at the statistics, we looked at the pain points, we looked at why this is impacting people, right? We looked at all of the horrible ways that menopause is impacting people just through lack of knowledge and understanding, right? So if we think about the purpose of the Menopause Action Plans at its rawest level, it's to help reduce the gender pay gap and to support employees experiencing the effects of menopause. This is not about people who are going through menopause. It's not just about people experiencing menopause. It's to support everybody that is impacted directly and indirectly. That means you. If you're never going to go through menopause yourself, you are going to live with, work with, or socialize with somebody. It is a valuable skill for you to understand what is menopause. It is a valuable skill for you to know what to do about that, how to open a conversation with someone, how to signpost someone to the right help and support, how to manage that relationship during that transition. Can I get a yes in the chat if this all makes sense? Just make sure I'm on the right track here. Can I get a yes in the chat if this all makes sense? Yes, good, excellent, right. So the meat and the bones of today. On the next slide, take a picture of this slide. Please take a picture of this slide. This is what you need to know. Out of the whole of today, your recommended actions as an employer or the recommended actions to support your clients with going forward. Here are the key 6 things. We want to be supporting employees experiencing menopause, clearly. We want to offer occupational health advice for employees experiencing menopause. I'm going to come back and talk to each one of these in a minute. We want to set up menopause support groups and networks. We want to look at offering workplace adjustments for employees experiencing menopause. We want to conduct a menopause risk assessment for your workforce. And we want to review our policies and procedures to meet the needs of employees experiencing menopause. Now, the way this is all written, it sounds like it's just for the people going through menopause, but it's not. Trust me. I've been doing this work since 2014. This is the only work that I do. I work strictly in the menopause space. Yes, I will also do everything from menstruation all the way through fertility, pregnancy, all the way through the whole female life cycle. But we have to make sure that we're bringing everyone on the journey. There's no point supporting someone going through menopause if they can't then talk to their manager. There's no point supporting someone going through menopause if we don't have a system in place that makes sure that it's menopause savvy and menopause supportive. We have to make sure that we're not trying to fix the individual, rather than we're fixing the environment that we're in. One of the analogies I always use is we're trying to fix the culture, the environment. So if we had a flower in the garden or, some sort of something in the garden that wasn't flourishing, we would change the soil, we'd change the conditions around it. We wouldn't try and fix the flower itself, because that's not where the issue is. The issue comes from the soil, it comes from the moisture, it comes from the rain, it comes from the fertilizer, it comes from the plant food. So all of those things around the individual, all of these things around the people going through menopause is where we're looking at. So what does that look like? In reality, it can look like so many different things based on what's the size of your organization? What are the demographics of your organization? What current policies and procedures and guidance documents do you have in place? What's your colleague journey look like? At what point are you making sure that you are acknowledging menopause? When you have a job design or person spec, are you thinking, is this menopause savvy? Is this menopause supportive? Does your recruitment process allow for somebody who is experiencing menopause symptoms to be able to be supported during that process? A few of my clients now will send the questions out to the employee, potential employee, and allow them to pre-record their answers and send them back in. Now, clearly it depends on what your role type is and what the demands of that role are, but we can start to get much more creative about every single aspect of that colleague journey. When we onboard somebody, whether there's someone going to go through menopause or not, are we mentioning menopause? Are we signposting to company handbooks, policies, guidance documents that mention menopause as well? Are we letting the wider audience? So a lot of the time I'll do some publicity. So if I'm working with an organization in the early days and as they're going through the journey, we might do some PR. We might go out to the media and say, hey, this organization is on this journey, because it's another Brucey bonus, if you like. It's another good way for an organization to show where their thinking's at and what they're doing, what they've got in place to support people going through menopause. So we want to be thinking creatively about what we can do to support people. Now, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in a STEM subject, a STEM industry, whether you are in an office-based environment, maybe you're frontline. And we have to give thinking to all of these things. Often if I'm working in the education sector, we know that teachers will be on their feet all day, every day, that they go from class to class to class. To, instead of a lunch break or a morning break, they will have pupils coming into their room, or they will have a staff meeting. So there's no chance for a toilet break. There's no chance for anything for them to do other than being back to back, being on call for 8 hours straight. So we start to talk about what's next term's timetable going to look like? What is next year's timetable going to look like? How can we change that around so that the lunch breaks are not taken up with staff meetings, that they can be maybe a shorter staff meeting and a longer break? How can we make sure that there is a quick way of being able to alert somebody that someone needs to exit the classroom and someone else step in for a short time, especially in the younger years? So we start thinking about different creative ways that we can work with people to make sure that people are getting reasonable adjustments as they're going forward. There was a horrendous story of an ambulance worker who had been out on a shout, come back and gone back out on the next shout, and she bled through her greens when she was out. And at that moment in time, she needed to go home, change, freshen up, put on new greens and get back out on work. And she was denied. She was told to get on with her job. We cannot allow these things to carry on happening. We cannot allow these things to carry on happening. When I was working in financial services, one of the third-party companies I was working with, their main lead was getting a train from Paddington through to Swindon, and she had a massive flood at Paddington. And she phoned me up, apologising profusely, feeling incredibly guilty, saying that she had to go home to get changed. And of course, I'm like, sure thing, from one human being to another human being, of course. But she got berated from her company for not showing up that day, because nothing should have got in the way of her supporting her client. We have to rethink these things. We have to make sure that people are prepared, they're educated in menopause before it happens, understand what might happen when you go through menopause, be ready and be prepared to be able to support yourself through that journey and know where the right help and support is. So by supporting employees, by having a menopause, checking in on menopause the whole way through the employee life cycle. Do you have an HR flag on your system, on your HR system, that if someone takes time off, takes leave for menopause, is there a flag in the system that you can capture that? Are you looking at the metrics of the impact of menopause in your workplace? There's no point having a menopause action plan. There's no point having someone come in like myself, to come in and do menopause awareness training, to work with policies, to have a strategic plan, if you're not going to do your metrics. So you have to understand what your metrics are at the get-go. How is the menopause impacting your organization? And then 12 months on, after you implement everything, how is that shifting and changing? Are you using employee surveys? Are you using your engagement metrics to look at what the impact of menopause is? Are you asking your colleagues, what is it that they want? Instead of just imposing top down, are you asking the people that are most impacted, what is it you want? A former colleague of mine phoned me up a couple of years ago, and he said to me, Lauren, he was a director in the organization, so senior colleague. And he phoned me up and he said, Lauren, I just don't know what to do. I thought, oh my gosh, his wife must be having a hard time through menopause. And he goes, you know who I work for? And I was like, sure. She's an amazing human, amazing individual. I'd worked with her for a number of years myself. He said, I don't know what to do. I said, what do you mean? Tell me more. And he goes, she's just really erratic. One minute she says this, then she says that. I don't know where I stand with her. I'm really worried about my job. So we had a conversation, we talked about menopause, we talked about a few things that he could do differently in terms of how he approached his working relationship, how he could map out conversations and the commitments that were expected of him going forward, so that he had a way to communicate with her and rebuild that relationship. And he got in touch with me before things got to the point of getting really bad, so that he could remediate that early, quickly, and keep that relationship on a really good footing. So it's not just the people going through menopause. Another example of that, I remember doing a talk at one of the banks here in Bristol. We had a big audience there. I was doing my story, talking about menopause, introducing the topic. It was over 10 years ago, so it was quite an early doors one. And 2 people walked out of the room. I watched them walk out and thought, oh, they must have been bored. And then I noticed they were quite upset as well. So I thought they were like a young couple. They looked like they were in their early 20s, and they walked out. They looked like they were crying, and I just had to carry on with my talk at that point. But when I finished my talk, I saw them come back in, and they were holding each other's hand. They were walking up towards me, and they were laughing, and they were joking and hugging. And they came up and they said, "Thank you." And I was like, okay, tell me more. And I said, we left home when we were 15. We thought our mother hated us. She'd always been so loving and caring and nurturing. And then she just was completely different character, and we thought she just didn't want us to live there anymore. It turned out that they were 22-year-old twins, and they'd gone out, having joined the dots during my talk, realizing their mum had probably been going through menopause, and they picked up the phone and spoke to her for the first time in 7 years, and they were going off to meet her that afternoon. So it affects many, many different people in lots of different ways. So the more and earlier we can introduce the topic of menopause. So as Angela said at the beginning, average age is 51. I was 37 when I became menopausal. So we can't learn about this stuff too early. We need to understand that it's coming. We need to understand what is on its way. We need to understand there's a natural life transition for most people, but you might also go through menopause as a result of medical interventions or surgical interventions. You might have cancer treatment. There's so many different ways that someone can go through menopause earlier. So we need to think about workplace adjustments that are appropriate to the role type that someone's in. Does someone have a change of clothes? Do they have access to shower facilities? Have they got access to a toilet cubicle the next time you're refurbishing your toilets? Instead of having a whole bank of toilets with communal, wash hand basins in the middle, can you put the wash hand basin in with the toilet cubicle so someone's got some privacy if they need to get changed or they need to get freshened up? There's an amazing company called Egal that does pads on a roll. So whilst I'm not here to advertise anyone else's business, you know how you have toilet rolls in a cubicle, maybe you can have sanitary pads on a roll in there too. There's lots of different super simple ways that we can make life so much easier for people when they're going through menopause. What about clothing? If someone's in the army, do they have an underlayer that wicks away the sweat? If they're in the police, the same thing. Are we making sure our frontline workers or nurses or ambulance workers or care workers, have they got clothing that is breathable if someone's having hot flushes? Are we building breaks in, access to toilets, cold water, natural light? All of these things can help. So if we just think about supporting people and having adjustments in place, do your managers know what adjustments might be on offer? Do they know where to access that information? Do they know what's in the policy, or if you don't have a policy, the guidance document? Do they know what's in your employee assistance program or your private medical health? Do people know what's available? We have to train and bring this to people's awareness. The other thing is the occupational health advice, and also for HR as well. So it's not just occupational health, but also making sure HR are up to date in all of this as well. So often what I see in occupational health is woman is in late 40s, sterling performer, suddenly becoming withdrawn. Performance review, not as good as it usually is. Potential threats of a PIP, a performance improvement plan. The woman starts getting a bit more withdrawn. She doesn't speak up so much in meetings. She's questioning her own ability to do the job. Her performance is hit. She knows she's still capable, but outwardly people are seeing a change in her demeanour. They're seeing a change in the way that she engages. But between her and her team, the work is still carrying on and it's still going as planned. But the perception of her work is changing and is shifting by her manager and by other management, because her manager is now talking to these other managers and creating this illusion of something that may or may not be going on in reality. Relationship breaks down, goes on a performance plan, perhaps leaves the organisation or feels like they're being managed out. What if we recognize menopause, we educate with menopause, we noticed someone's performance or demeanor was changing, and we had the right language, the right conversation to be able to open up that conversation, recommend that colleague goes and speak to occupational health. What if when occupational health are doing an assessment that they don't think stress, anxiety, low mood, that they actually consider perimenopause, the stage before menopause or menopause? What if occupational health had the toolkit that made them look at menopause? And now, if you think that I am making this up, I am not. The majority, until recently, of occupational health people that I've spoken to presented with someone going through menopause will go down the stress, anxiety, depression route, because that is often what is being presented based on the questions that they are currently asking. So we need to make sure that occupational health understand the right questions to ask so that they can tailor their solution, tailor their advice, tailor their plans going forward to make sure that that individual is getting menopause appropriate help and support. I can't stress enough that if occupational health get this wrong, then not only is the employee being impacted and getting the wrong, possibly sticky plaster at best support, possibly being offered anxiety or depression meds instead of menopause effective help and support, which is different for everybody, and the employer has been told the action plan is something that is not helpful, it's not helping people, it's not setting people up for success moving forward. So supporting employees, offering adjustments, having occupational health and HR on board. And then we want to be looking at conducting a risk assessment for your workplace as well. So as I said, have we got the right working environment in place? Have we got flexibility built into that if that is appropriate with the role? Do we have people, go-to people like menopause champions? We certify menopause champions in all the companies we work with. So there's a go-to person, especially if someone doesn't yet have the competence to speak to their manager, the manager hasn't had training yet. If there's a menopause champion in the business, that's someone they can go and talk to. Even better, a menopause coach. So we want to look at doing a risk assessment, looking at the built environment, looking at the way the work is set up and structured, looking at the demands of the job, making sure that we've put things in place. Now, we might have a health passport, a menopause passport, different organizations call it something different. But if you can build menopause risk assessments into the general risk assessments that you're doing in your business, it is going to reap rewards going forward for sure. Can I just get a yes? Because I'm talking a lot now. Is this making sense? Is this useful? Just let me know if this is all helping and making support before going on. I know it's a lot of information. Cool. So support groups and networks. This is where I started. Support groups and networks. My very first thing that I did when I left my job thinking I had early onset dementia was setting up a support group. I live in Bristol. I work all over the world, but I set up a group here in Bristol with the Windmill Hill City Farm. They provided the space and they provided hot drinks and snacks, and we advertised together. We brought groups of women together, and I have replicated that inside all the companies that I work with. Having a support group where people can just come and talk is one of the super simplest, easiest things that you can do. If you're not doing it, please do it. If you haven't encouraged your clients to do this, please do it. Bringing women together, allowing them to talk about their experience of menopause, allows them to validate what they're going through is real, allows them to know they're not alone. Too many people are experiencing menopause, hiding it, suffering in silence, pretending it's not happening, slowly questioning their own sanity because they're terrified of speaking up. By having a support group or a network, a menopause social, I have a Facebook group called the Menopause Social Hangout. It's a private group where we look at supporting people going through menopause. So we're not talking about solutions for individual symptoms. We're looking at what are the big things that we can do to help support people going through menopause in the Menopause Social Hangout. So when we put groups in place, we're signaling to our workers, to our employees, to our staff, to our colleagues, we're signaling that it's okay to have this conversation. We're enabling people going through this to support one another. It is super simple. It costs nothing but half an hour, 45-minute, online, in person, whatever is suitable for your organization. And just by allowing people that moment of sanity, that moment to know they're not the only person that's going through this, can make the biggest difference. It's got to be the easiest, super simple, cheapest thing that you can possibly do that reaps the biggest rewards going forward. So I recommend setting up menopause social hangouts for your colleagues, for your clients. bringing people together quarterly, monthly, whatever works for your organization. I will often go in once a month to my organizations and just do a quick 5 to 10 minute chat on a topic, and then let people debate it and think about what can they take away, what can they do differently, how can that help them going forward. Or if I've gone into an organization, I've delivered the Menopause Plan, which is a 7-week coaching program or a 3-hour workshop to help individuals going through menopause. I love doing these. And the great thing about doing these is that in 3 hours, I can come into your company. I can take people going through menopause through a way of creating their own personal menopause plan. And then we get together once a month for the next few months just to make sure that's implemented and make sure people feel like they're not isolated and alone. There was one company I worked with, and I went and delivered the menopause plan to a group of people, but they'd been really selective about who was allowed to apply to come on that program. After I did it, and we got great feedback and the reviews were amazing, but there was one lady who hadn't been able to come on it for a variety of reasons. I got a call from their HR director saying to me, "Hey, Lauren, I think we made a mistake. We should have allowed her to come on it because she's leaving now." I was like, okay, so what's the purpose of giving me a call? She goes, well, we'd like to build a one-to-one version of the menopause plan in for her final package. I was like, okay, I can do that. She had 6 months garden leave and I was coaching her for 3 months during that 6 months. I took her through my signature coaching program, the menopause plan. Before we'd even finished, she rescinded her notice and she carried on working with that employer. Now, she would have walked away with a 6-figure check whilst being paid for 6 months, accruing her benefits. And she went back to work on refreshed conditions that was a win-win for her and for her organization as well. They retained her skills, her knowledge, her experience, and they didn't have that pause of having to backfill and having to wait for her to leave to backfill, to find someone to train them up, to put them in the right position to be able to take over from her. So think about the savings just by me coaching her through the menopause plan. So the menopause plan is a really powerful coaching process, or it's a really powerful workshop. It can be both. It's a really great way of bringing people together to help them create their own personal menopause plan, helping the employee take responsibility for their journey through menopause just by you providing that intervention. So there's lots of creative ways that we can set up networks and groups to help people. We can also set up networks and groups where we allow other people who don't go through menopause in as well. So there's lots of different ways we can tackle that through our employee resource groups, through other networks. It just works. It just works. Now, when we've got here review policies and procedures, I find it really interesting that it's always talking about policies. It doesn't have to be a policy, it can be a guidance document. And especially if I'm working with larger global organizations, we tend to have guidance documents rather than policies, just because a policy doesn't necessarily translate globally. And we have different expectations, different cultures, different ways of managing different parts of the world. So whether it's a policy or it's a guidance document, then we want to think about what is it we need to put in place. Are we thinking about all the things that we talked about during the workplace adjustments? Are we training managers to have the right language to talk to somebody who might be going through menopause without them pointing the finger and saying you are, or making it all about the person that they think is menopausal? It's not their place to judge, it's not their place to diagnose, but it is, as a manager, their place to make sure that they understand and know their people well enough to know when something different's going on for them, so that they can intervene and make sure that person's got the right help and support. Is this all making sense? Is this all making sense? Cool. So if we go on to the next slide, just thinking again about menopause support, it really is a strategic advantage. It is a bottom line winner. Okay. So depending whether you're very right brain and, you want to do the right thing and bring everyone on the journey, or whether you're much more, mercenary and looking at the bottom line, we know that making sure you've got the right menopause and support in place, whether it's through a menopause action plan, or maybe you don't have 250 people. Maybe you just want to hold on to the best people in your company and make sure that they know how to support someone going through menopause, or they are somebody who is going to go through menopause and you don't want to lose them, so you want to put the right thing. You want to avoid that shame and stigma. You want to avoid the spikes in absenteeism or presenteeism, where someone's at work and they're not, they're showing up for work, but they're not showing up and doing the work, right? We want to be careful about the legal and reputational risk in the UK as well, right? There is an increase in the number of tribunals citing menopause. And there's an increase of the successful tribunals citing menopause. Menopause is currently covered under the Equality Act, under age, sex and discrimination. It's covered under bullying and harassment. It's covered under the Health and Safety Act 74. So it's already technically covered in a number of different ways here in the UK. It's covered under the ADA, American Disability in the States. I know that's not what we're here to talk about today, but if you are here from the States, it's important to know that you have similar cover as well, although it's less widely applied in the States at the moment, although that is definitely set to change. So there's so many different ways that menopause can impact your organization or your client's organization. And having these things front of mind helps you open up that conversation with them as well. So going on to the next slide, I would love to know, and I'm going to pause for a minute, what one action will you take away from today's session to change the narrative on menopause? What one thing will you take away from today's session to change the narrative on menopause? Let me know in the chat. This is a bit I love because I want to know if people are going to make a difference. More support groups, fantastic. Thanks, Jenny. I think the support groups is such a powerful way forward. I mean, we've not talked about the actual things like hydration, movement, like there's so many things that I can talk about. Clearly, I can talk about menopause until whenever. This is an issue affects everybody, support groups. Yeah. So what one thing, what will you do differently as a result of being here today? Maybe you've already planned to do stuff, but what one thing will you do differently as a result of being here today? Talk more openly about menopause symptoms and support. Fantastic. Thank you, Ellie. Support groups, Joe. Thank you. Helen, this is an issue that affects everybody. Thank you for sharing. Discussion, support group, training as a menopause coach. Sue, welcome. Thank you. So, we've been working with large organizations since 2014 to support organizations to become menopause savvy and become menopause supportive. We've got Raise It With Men. Thank you, Lucinda. Linda, keep speaking out. Also thinking of best friend New Zealand having a shocking time with her boss. Just thought, sounds like she's experiencing menopausal issues. So we'll alert my friend to maybe broach this subject with her, lend her some support. Amanda, advocate for menopause in work and personal life. Fantastic. So I love the fact that you're going to take practical steps. There's no point giving your time here today. How many sessions do we all join in? Do we all sign up for? And it's great. And we listen, we think about the nuggets that are really relating to us when we're on that session. And then we go away and it's like, yeah, we've moved on to the next thing. We've gotten too busy. We've got great intentions, but we don't absolutely think about what we're going to do differently. I suspect a lot of people here know that they want to make a difference. I suspect that a lot of you are already doing something to make a difference when it comes to supporting people going through menopause. Now I'm asking you, what one thing will you take away from today to change the narrative? Make a commitment to yourself to go and make a difference. If I can help one person today go and do one thing differently, I know I've done my job. And that is so important to me to be able to do that. So if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to pop up the slide again. If you do want to have a conversation, you do want to have a chat, then you can either go to womenacertainstage.com and then book a call with me, or take a picture of the QR code there, and then you can absolutely get some time. My diary's pretty busy for the next couple of weeks, but we can get time. We've got plenty of time to get that in the diary. So next slide. If we just think about menopause as a material profit and loss issue, it's not a nice to have. It is not a nice to have inclusion, well-being topic. Everybody's going to be impacted by menopause. You're paying for it anyway. Lost days, attrition, stalled progression. You're paying for it anyway. You might as well pay to educate people, put the right mechanisms in place, and make sure that you are supporting people from the get-go. I don't know what I would be doing today if my organization had someone like me come in and do the strategy, do the training, help with the policies and procedures, occupational health and HR, get the support network set up. Maybe I'd still be there. Maybe I'd still be there. Maybe I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. I would love to think that I would be here for a different reason because I love doing this work, right? But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I've gone for another promotion. Maybe I would be, who knows what I'd be doing by now. But it cost everybody, with my skills, my knowledge and experience, walking out that door when I left. So just having a basic evidence-based support package gives you a massively high return on investment, retention, and productivity lever in your business. So just as I mentioned, I think I mentioned, if we go to the next slide, the picture on the left-hand side was the conference that I set up at Airbus a few years ago. And this is where I brought 60 companies together at Airbus. And we did an amazing afternoon with the deputy mayor. We had an employment lawyer. We had a couple of my clients in the banking industry. And we talked about how menopause was impacting businesses. That was way back then, right? So by bringing people together, by using my voice to speak out in the press and the media on stages around the world, we can make a difference when we pull together. If I can help and support you in any way, if we go to the final slide again, if I can help and support you, if there's anything in today's session that spoke to you, please connect with me on your favorite social media. If not, go on to the Women of a Certain Stage podcast and you can hear from my menopause coach clients, some of my champions, and some of the experts I work with as well. Everything I do is science-backed and research-led. It is so important that we make sure we're getting good quality information when it comes to menopause and we're not getting detracted by things that are someone's next best idea, but have got no science or research behind them. So everything I do is backed by science. Everything I do is backed by experts around the world to be able to deliver this work for you. I have a deep background in transformation. That's what I'm all about. I understand culture change. It does not happen overnight. But we've got lots of time between now and April to get the right metrics in place, to get the right actions built, and to start delivering them over the next couple of years. Angela, over to you. Thank you to everyone else for listening and for your time and for being here today.
We have got a question that hopefully you'll be able to answer that Jenny asked during that, which was, other than publishing to your website, where else do we need to publish the plan?
It's just as part of your gender pay gap reporting. So it's part of your gender pay gap reporting. So whatever you normally do there, that's what you will be doing.
Okay, brilliant. Any other questions, everyone? And I did see a few men in there, so they kept a little quiet, but there were a few in there. And I didn't change who I was actually inviting. I thought, no, this is for everyone, so we need to do that. Oh, Helen, that's lovely of you. That was exceptional. Thank you. For some reason, it's not picking your names up when it's putting it onto the thing. You're now anonymous, but it wasn't. It was Helen Roper. There was something I wanted to bring up because this is getting out there now. Last week, I had my final appointment with my oncologist. So, breast cancer got me last year, but we're all clear. We're all sorted now. What they did give me was a research study. Society for Endocrinology are actually asking people to report outcomes. So it's patient reported outcomes for menopause management intervention study. So the fact that there's even more research and and studies going on there, it's specifically for people that are peri or post menopausal, got diabetes, Turner syndrome that I've not heard of, breast cancer, surgically induced menopause, or using long-term GnRH agonist or antagonist for chronic gynecological conditions. So if you want to be part of that study, reach out to me and I'll give you the details as well. But I will be signing up for that. I'm very happy to be giving more information for this research so that we can just do more and more. Because like you say, all of your stuff is research based. So we need to be the people when they're asking for it, putting their hands up and going, yes, we're happy to get involved in that.
Yeah, I support the Menopause Research Education Fund, Menopause MREF. It's a small charity, but what they do is they as more money comes in, they then take that pot of money and it goes directly into small pockets of research that can then initiate bigger pieces of research as well. So that was something to me that was really important, to make sure that I'm doing something that is not commercially aligned, that it is something that is grassroots, that can actually kick off those bigger pieces of research further down the line. So that's just something that's really important to me going forward, that we're missing so much information. So I'm delighted that that's going ahead. One of my grads is a Macmillan cancer nurse specialist, and she's making massive difference around the north of England and how her cancer patients post-cancer are being supported. So we've got a long way to go. But the more you can get involved in research, so I absolutely, Angela, if I can share that for you, I definitely will put that in my newsletter. But I think it's so important that we understand that we don't have all the answers. I've been doing this work since 2014, 100% of my time. I also have over 40 years of human performance experience at a very, very senior level. I worked with people like Dustin Hoffman, Anastasia, England Rugby, like lots of people around the world for years. And I thought I knew a lot about human performance until I went through menopause. And I absolutely was flabbergasted about how little I knew about endocrinology, the study of hormones. And even our endocrinologists have not necessarily studied menopause. And that's the irony. So, we've got a long way to go. And all the research that we can support, I think, is really invaluable. So thank you, Angela, for putting this together. And thank you, everyone, for being here and listening in today.
Yes. So this is going to be downloaded. It will be put into the Menopause in Your Business course. We've got the green button there on the Crowdcast, and we've got the link in LinkedIn. So if you've not signed up for that, it's one of our eight free courses that we offer. Loads of resources in there for you as well. And of course, reach out to Lauren. We've put the links in there for you, and also an overview of all the elements that she gets involved with. So we're very happy in the Recruiting Gym here to be sharing this information. Knowledge shared is how we've got to move forward, isn't it? And make sure that we're all aware, and it doesn't shock us as much as it did us. Let's prepare the next generation so they don't have to go through what we went through. Wonderful. Thank you. Just finished with Linda's comment there. It's crazy. So many specialists work in isolation. It's not a holistic approach. Okay, so things like this can really help to bring it together. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And look at that. Perfect timing as well. Got 2 minutes to spare. Fantastic.
You'd think we'd done it before?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll do it again at the end of the year or before next April, definitely, when people don't realise, okay, I should have had this before the end of the year. Is probably a good idea. Brilliant. Have a great week, everyone.